the focus poem. Okay? So those are just some options for you. So focus poetry is not a curriculum. Okay? It's a supplement, not a curriculum. It's not an assessment. You could have it as assessment, but it's really not supposed to be an assessment. It's just, it's a spiral review. That's what it is. Okay? It's not supposed to be small group. Again, you're doing this whole group. Okay? It's not only reader's workshop. Like I said, you can do it during phonics time, spelling time, science and social studies time. Okay? It's not only word work. It's not only a literacy center. It's one of your centers, but not the only one. It's not just done monthly, not just teacher-led and not just student-led. So this is the we do part of balanced literacy. So the teacher and the student are working together as the we do part. So in the we do part of balanced literacy, you can do shared reading. You can do interactive notebooks. You can do interactive anchor charts. That's exactly what focus poetry is. It's all three of those in one. Okay? So focus poetry is... I like to do the is not and the is because some teachers have misconceptions about certain things. So I like to clear that up before we move on. So focus poetry is whole group. It's done weekly, or if you can do it daily, more power to you. Okay. My schedule just won't allow me to do it daily, but if you can, that's awesome. It's a fluency practice. This is great for fluency. Comprehension practice. Wow, who knew that poems had messages or morals? Who knew that poems had all these different components of comprehension that you can get into? Creating mental images. Who knew? Oh my gosh. You can just do so much with poetry. Making mental images. This is good grammar practice for your grammar. You can review parts of speech and review grammar. Like I said, it's a spiral review. So let's say that that week I'm teaching nouns. We're going to find all the nouns in that poem. Yep, all the nouns. And then we're going to point to them. We're going to count them. We're going to read them. Okay? And those are the words that students are going to highlight in their notebook, in the poem. Oh my gosh, it's so much fun. Okay? It's a really good way to spiral review. Exposure to different types of poetry. Not all poems have to rhyme. Okay? You can do acrostic poems as well. You can have an acrostic poem up on your poster, and you and the kiddos can write in the words together. That's a good interactive writing right there. And you're still doing a poem. Good rhyming word practice, good word family practice, good for kindergarten, definitely. You could use focus poetry for your word family poems. I know a lot of you in kindergarten use word family poems. So there you go, right there. This can be part of your center rotations. Okay? I have about 20 centers in my room, and my poetry center is one of the most popular ones. They love the poetry center. And I'll show you pictures of it too. This is a shared reading activity. You can spiral review old skills and introduce new skills. Okay? Incorporated through ELAR, definitely, because again, you have word work, phonics, grammar, reading, comprehension, creating mental images. There's just so much you can do with poetry. You can incorporate it through science and social studies. Can be taught cross-curricular, definitely. Like I said, when you use science poems or social studies poems, you can even use a math poem. You can use a math poem. There's tons of math songs that you can use as well. And you're having a poetry notebook and illustrating practice. Okay, so that's a lot to kind of get your head wrapped around, right? Okay, but like I said, I'm going to show you different pictures of what I'm talking about so it's a little bit more clear, okay? Poetry is good for repetition, rhythm, rhyming words, predictable text, sight word recognition. Ooh, you gotta love those sight words. Creating mental images. I know that's part of our standards. Singing with a new skill. If they sing the poem, if we sing, "Oh, Mr. Sun, Sun, Mr. Golden Sun," okay? if they sing the poem, they're going to remember it forever. Okay? And it's for fun and enjoyment. Poetry is so much fun. Okay? And guess what? At the end of the year, when the kiddos go home from school, their poetry notebook is jam-packed full of poems that they can take home in the summer and that they can read. Okay? They can practice their fluency. They can practice their comprehension. They can practice rhyming words. It's just so awesome. So if you are able to do a poetry unit during your Reader's Workshop block, Language Arts block, that is so fun. So I'm going to share with you some mentor text that I have used in the past. So I really want you to focus right here at the top where it says, sometimes I wonder if poodles like noodles. I don't know if you know this, but Laura Numeroff is the author of this book. Laura Numeroff is the same author that wrote If You Give a Mouse a Cookie. So I use this book. It's a collection of poems, and I read one poem a day before we start our mini lesson, okay, during my poetry unit. So it's kind of like a warm-up brain teaser, and then we talk about the poem really quick. We talk about what is the author trying to say. We talk about the author's purpose. We talk about some rhyming words, just real quick. And then I start reading my next book. So this is an excellent book. I really recommend that you get this one. The poems are short and they're not really long. And they have such cute pictures. So you could read the poem and not show the class the picture. Have them create the mental image in their mind. And then you turn the book around and you show them the picture. Did your picture in your movie, in your mind, match the picture in the book? Okay? So, just some ideas that you can do. Anyway, so these are really great poems, books that are poems that you can read. A lot of you already know all of these books. Another one is called Wild About Books by Judy Sierra, illustrated by Mark Brown. We all know that Mark Brown is the author, illustrator of all the Arthur books. So this is a great book for rhyming, poetry, wonderful. And then Book by Deborah Brass is wonderful. I love that one. Of course, Eric Carle, most all his books are poems. Awesome. Audrey Wood, Quick as a Cricket, wonderful. Snowman at Night. I know a lot of you know this book. And then, of course, Jack Prelutsky. He's got a lot of great poems. Okay? Here's some more mentor texts that I found as examples. Llama Llama Red Pajama. We all know that book. Anna Downey. And then, of course, Dr. Seuss. You gotta love Dr. Seuss. And then, let's see. Pout Pout Fish. Is Your Mama a Llama? Jamberry. Sheep in a Jeep. There Was an Old Lady Who Swallowed a Fly. I love those books. Giraffes Can't Dance. There's a Bear in My Chair. And then this book down here is called Hailstones and Halibut Bones by Mary O'Neill. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this book, but this is a book all about color words. And this author has taken these color words and written poems about each color and with explicit details. And it's also great for the upper grades. If you teach 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, this book is amazing for alliteration, figurative language, okay? And, of course, creating mental images about these colors. I mean, it is amazing. This author, the way she put these words together to talk about different colors. So, if you want to do an author study, then you need to check out these poets. Okay, of course, we talked about Jack Prelutsky. He's right here. Love Jack Prelutsky. He's got all those holiday books of poems. Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, Valentine's. Then Laura Numeroff, of course, she's right here. She's got that book, Sometimes I Wonder If Poodles Like Noodles. Dr. Seuss, we all know Dr. Seuss. Eric Carle, right here. Sims Tabak, he is the author of The Old Lady Who Swallowed a Fly. Audrey Wood, she's right here with the deer. Audrey Wood is the author of The Napping House and Quick as a Cricket. And then, of course, Margaret Brown is the author of Goodnight Moon and The Big Red Barn. Okay, so a lot of great authors that you can use as an author study for your poetry unit. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and do our second winner. Let's see. Oh my gosh, there's so many comments. Let's see. How about Jamie Michael Myers? Jamie Michael Myers. Congratulations, Jamie. Jamie Michael Myers. You just won my resource for the whole year. Okay? So look for your resource on Messenger, okay? All right, moving on here. So these are some materials and supplies for focus portrait. You need composition books. Now, guys, I like to use the composition books. I don't like to use the spirals. Okay? Because the spirals fall apart and the pages rip out of them. Okay? If you decide to use composition books, you need to shrink the pages, the poems down about 80% when you're copying them on the copy machine. Okay? So, you're going to need composition books. You're going to need your poems, of course, for your notebooks. You're going to need a poetry center because you want some place to display your poem that you guys are going to read as a shared reading. Okay? And what better way to display a poem than in a poetry center? I mean, it's perfect. You need punctuation cards, which I'll share with you in a minute. You're going to need some kind of fancy pointers. You can use any pointers that you want for the kiddos to point while they're at the center. Or when you do a shared reading, you can have pointers and the kiddos can come up and point to the words. You want notebook examples. So what I do is I pick a student. Well, this was my daughter Kennedy when I had her in first grade. So I kept all of her notebooks from that year, from first grade, to show my class the next year what the notebooks should look like. Okay? You want to have an example. So I just think kindergarten, first grade need a lot of modeling. Okay? And you guys know that. You need a model how to glue the poem in. I do ... center. Or you can do ... not a lot. Okay? I'm sure some of y'all have really cool songs for that too. But I show them that the poem goes on the left side of the notebook. The picture goes on the right side, as you can see in the picture. Okay? And I model how to do that. You're going to need examples on your poetry center. So I keep the notebook open, and I have a little stand right there on my center that shows the poem of the week. Okay? Plus, the poem is up on the bulletin board as well. You're going to need your posters with poems. Those are the big posters. I'll show you how to make those. You need some kind of a trash can or a laundry basket to store your poems. So what I do, and I'll show you pictures of some examples, I roll up the poems, you can put paper clips on them or rubber band them, put them in a laundry basket or a trash can, and store those, okay? And then you can laminate them, and then there you go. You can have a poetry center as part of your center rotations. You need an area for the students to sit. You can do this two ways. You can sit in front of the center on the floor. If you have a carpet, that's great. Or you can sit in front of your smartboard. And I'll show you how to use the smartboard with your poems. You also need a document camera if you use your smartboard. So here is one of my examples that I've had in the past of my poetry center. Okay? So you're going to need pointers, and you can tell this little girl, she's using one of my little hand pointers, and she's pointing to a poem. She's reading a poem, okay? You need focus poetry posters. See, the poem is up on the board in front of her right here. So my board is magnetic, so I just use magnets. Or you can use a regular bulletin board and staple them, whatever you want to do. You can use poetry books. So I have a basket full of poetry books. So, for example, like all of Jack Perletsky's poetry books are all in that basket. And I have it labeled with poetry books. Dr. Seuss books are in there. Audrey Wood books are in there. So, any poetry books that you have, even nursery rhymes, you could put nursery rhyme books in there. Okay? You also want to have, if you don't have to, but I think it's fun if you have book buddies. So this picture I got off the internet. It's from First Grade Blue Skies. And you could have a tub of just book buddies. And if you have a Cricut machine, you can make these letters from your Cricut machine. So inside of that tub, you can put puppets from If You Give a Mouse a Cookie, Quick as a Cricket, The Very Hungry Caterpillar. Okay, all those different puppets that are in the books that are in the Poetry Center, they can use the puppet when they read. Okay, it's so fun. They just love having those book buddies. I love it. If you want to make this a listening center as well, you can have listening center devices and you can use QR codes. So if you use a QR code, put the QR code on an index card, put the index cards on a ring, and they flip over the index cards, and then they scan their QR code with their device, and then they can listen to the book with their headphones. Okay? You could have a listening center and your reading center, your poetry center, all in the same center. Okay? There's so much you can do with it. So many different options. You could have a pocket chart with poems. So like I have this small little pocket chart right here. One side is red and the other side is blue. And so I have poems of the month that I stick in there. And I think she's reading, I want to say she's reading a Valentine poem right now in the picture. So you could have poems on both sides of that folder and then just flip it around and read the other side. Okay, so that's another way you could do it with pocket charts. You could even have a pocket chart on your board, on your whiteboard in front of you, or your bulletin board. I use these templates right here at the bottom. For each of my centers, I have a template. So when they come to the Poetry Center, it says, write your favorite poem that you read today. So they're writing their poem in the blanks here, and then they're illustrating, creating a mental image, and they're illustrating their poem. Okay. I also have these I Can cards on rings. So I cut these apart, and then it says Poetry Center, I can read and write poetry. I can complete my center page. I can clean up my center. Okay. So like I said, this is part of my poetry rotations. And so they keep this template that they're writing on in their center folder. And at the end of the month, they turn in all their center pages for bonus books, because I use bonus books for positive reinforcement. And so each time that they complete a center page, they get one bonus book. Okay. These I Can cards stay in the Poetry Center. So in case they go to the center and they forget what to do, then they can read these I Can cards. At the beginning of the year, I go through each of my centers for one day. So one day will just be Poetry Center. We all sit in front of the Poetry Center. We all have a clipboard. We all have the center template. And I'm standing up there and I'm reading the I Can cards. And I show them everything that they're going to do in the Poetry Center. That's one day. And I have 20 centers. So guess how many days it takes me? Yep, 20 days. So I take my time when I am introducing my centers, because I don't want to rush at the beginning of the year. I want to make sure that they know my rules, they know my procedures, and trust me, it really pays off. If you're a first-year teacher and you are not sure how to introduce your centers, what I would recommend is take one center a day, and everybody does the same activity in the center. You can introduce different activities in the center, but the whole class is doing the same activity, okay? And they're all writing the same thing on their template. So that's just what I do, and it really works, because then afterwards, when they're independently writing on their own and they're at centers on their own, then it takes less hassle and less time for them to ask me what to do, because they already know how to do it. And they can always look back in their center folder and look at their template that they already did. Okay? So where can I teach poetry? In front of your Poetry Center is an option, or in front of your smartboard is another option. I do mine in front of my Poetry Center. Okay? I have some space. Not everybody sits on the floor, so the table group that's closest to the center gets to turn their chairs around. But the rest of the class comes to sit on the floor. Okay? So like I said, you could do poetry during Reader's Workshop block for one time a week. Pick Mondays or Fridays. That's what I recommend. But any day of the week is fine. Or you can do science and social studies one time a week, Mondays or Fridays. Or during your spelling or phonics time once a week. And you can do your phonics poems, word family poems as focus poetry. Or If you have a specific poetry block, you can do 5 days a week for poetry for 5-10 minutes. This is ideal, but I know not everybody has that flexibility in their schedule. I know I don't. So I had to kind of plug it in, wherever I could. So if you do the poetry schedule every day, this is what I recommend. On Mondays, you would introduce the new poem, you make predictions, and you read the poem or you sing it. Okay, that's all you're going to do, 5-10 minutes. On Tuesday, you read the poem, you discuss rhyming words and sight words. Now, when I say discuss rhyming words and sight words, I mean that you are taking the pointer and you're pointing to the rhyming words and the class is reading with you. It needs to be a shared reading. It's a reading with you, not just the teacher's reading. The whole class is reading. And if it's a song, then you're singing, okay? You're pointing out sight words. You're looking at the sight words. You can clap the syllables. You can spell them, okay? Wednesday, you could read the poem, clap and snap the rhythm. Okay, so if you're doing Mr. Sun, Mr. Golden Sun, please shine down on me. Make it a fun, rhythmic, like a rap, okay? Sing it, clap it, snap it, okay? They can tap their fingers, they can tap their head, whatever. Get creative, okay? They need to have some kind of rhythm. If you have musical instruments in your room, use those. Perfect. Let's see. Thursday, you can read the poem and discuss the parts of speech and punctuation, and you're going to count each one. Okay, so you're going to count all the periods with the pointer. You're going to count all the capitals. You're going to count question marks, exclamation points, ellipses, commas. You're going to count all of those. And then you're going to count how many rhyming words there are. You're going to count the nouns. You're going to count the verbs. And you're going to say them. You're going to read them. You can clap them, whatever you want to do. But you're looking at parts of speech and punctuation, and that's a great way to spiral review your grammar and parts of speech and punctuation. Okay? And then Friday, you could read the poem. This is where they glue it into their poetry notebook, and they highlight the skills taught with the poem. They create a mental image to illustrate. All right, so Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, you're just reading the poem and you're doing different activities really quickly, 5-10 minutes. Friday is the day that you would have them glue it in their notebook. Now, a real shared activity is where the kiddos have the poem or the story to read from. So when they're sitting on the floor or on the carpet, you could give them the poem to hold in their lap. And they're reading the poem in their lap while you are reading the poem on the poster. Then you call on students to come up to the poster and they share the pointer. And that's where it becomes shared reading. Okay? You can do it that way too. So here's the possibilities are endless. The possibilities are just endless with poetry. How to teach poetry cross-curricular. Okay. Reading, here we go. Comprehension. Creating mental images, making connections. And there's one more, author's purpose, which I forgot to put on there. Okay, and I'm sure there's many more, but those are just like the big ideas that you could use for reading. For grammar, you have parts of speech and you have punctuation, okay? For phonics, you have word families and sight words, okay? Easy. For math, you're counting the punctuation. Which has more? Which has less? Are there more periods or are there more commas? Are there less periods or less commas? How many more commas than periods? Easy way to incorporate math. Science. Okay, this is where it gets fun. You can have science poems about apples, weather, owls, pumpkins, plants, life cycles, oceans, rocks, magnets, seasons, space, Groundhog Day. And there's much more. For social studies, you could do All About Me, Community Helpers, Native Americans, Christmas, Presidents, Veterans Day, Thanksgiving, Good Citizens, Johnny Appleseed, Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks. Okay? Anybody. any famous historian, famous inventors, Thomas Edison, okay? If you're a good writer, you can even write your own poem, okay? You can cover all of these subjects with just one poem a week. And if you're like Texas teachers, we like to check off those teaks. Check, 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 check. I got that done. Okay? So this is a great slide. And when you download this PowerPoint after a while, I would go back to this slide and really study this, okay? So when you have your focus poem, a shared reading activity, okay, and I kind of touched on this a little bit, you call on your students to come up and share the pointer while the rest of the class is reading. Okay, so in order to make it a shared reading, which is part of the We Do, part of balanced literacy, okay, you need to have students sharing the pointer because it's the teacher and the student together, not just the teacher, okay? So each student can have a copy of the poem in their lap so they can read together. Okay, that's very helpful, especially with the kiddos that lose their place and they cannot find where you guys are on the poem, on the big poster poem. So I would have it in their lap so they can have it up close and personal. They can even have their highlighters with them, and they can be highlighting certain words that you want them to. Okay, there's a lot of different ways you can do that. You can hand out individual pointers to each student so they can follow along in the poem while you read together. I like those little popsicle sticks with the googly eyes on the end. You could have them use those popsicle sticks to point to the words while you're reading the poem together. Okay, so you can see in the picture here, this little girl is using the pointer and she's helping me and the class read the poem. Now, if you look on the side of the poster, you see all these cards. So over here on this side where the mouse is, this is my punctuation ladder. I have periods, capitals, commas, apostrophes, colons, exclamation point, quotation marks, question marks, ellipses, hyphens, and semicolon. You better believe by the end of the school year, they know what a semicolon's for. They know what a hyphen's for. They know what ellipses are for. And poetry teaches you all that, right? Together. All together in one thing, one lesson. So we're counting all the periods. We're counting them in the poem. We're pointing to them and we're counting. You're counting all the commas. You're counting all the question marks. And what I do is I tell them, this is your voice. Your thumb is your voice. Okay? And instead of everybody shouting out the answer, they're all sitting on the floor and I say, do we see, or you could do it, I spy. I spy, do we spy a comma? So they can say yes or no. Okay? If they say yes, then I will say, Johnny, I think that you said yes. Can you come up to the poster and can you point to one of the commas that you see? Okay? So then they can be sharing the pointer with you. Okay? Now, on the other side of the poem, I have parts of speech ladder. So I have rhyming words, nouns, verbs, adjectives, singular nouns, plural nouns, proper nouns, compound words, pronouns, prepositions, adverbs, and contractions. So again, I'm asking, do we spy any rhyming words? Yes, no. And they show me their thumb. They don't blurt out. Okay? Then I call on someone to come up and share the pointer, and they find 2 rhyming words. Now, if you want them to be highlighting the rhyming words for that week, they can have their highlighter in their hand and they can be highlighting the rhyming words while they're sitting on the floor. Or you can have them do it at their desk. Either way is fine. If you want them to highlight the nouns, if you want to review nouns for the week, then they highlight all the nouns. So whatever skill that I have previously taught, then I usually include that skill in focus poetry. Alrighty? All right. So I'm gonna go over here real quick and look at some comments that you guys are writing. See if I can answer some questions real quick. Let's see. It says, Sandra, you're asking maybe use these resources on Seesaw. Absolutely. I mean, if you download the resource, yes, you can use these on Seesaw. I don't know if you guys are familiar with pdfcandy.com, but that's a PDF resource that you can go through, a website that you can go to. If you need to delete some PDF slides off of your PDF document for Seesaw, that's what I use, pdfcandy.com. And so you can go on there and you can delete the slides that you don't want. So you can just download that one poem. You can put the poem on the Seesaw on the beginning part where they look at the assignment, and then you can put a template on the response side. The students can write on the template about the poem, or they can even highlight. They can use their drawing tools, and they can highlight certain words in the poem. Of course, you can use Poetry with Seesaw. That's a great question. Let's see if there's anything else. A lot of you are saying that it's great to teach poetry cross-curricular. Yes, it's really fun, and it's so easy. Okay, let me move on. All right, so how do you make your poems big? In the resource, I put big fonts, a big font for each poem. Each poem has a big font, okay? So there's the small 8.5 by 11 page. Then there's the big font. So if you want to take the big font and you want to laminate it on butcher paper, that's what I do. I just take butcher paper, I cut around the words, I cut out the words, and I put them on this poster. You see right here where the mouse is? Okay, and I even, I put pictures. I included lots of great clip art. Okay, as you can see in this cloud poem right here, I included a lot of great clip art that you can cut out and you can put on the butcher paper as well. Okay, now you can do this two different ways. You can glue the words onto the butcher paper and laminate it. Then you can roll them up, put them in your laundry basket or trash can. Okay, or if you want to put it in a pocket chart, that is perfectly fine. If you have a pocket chart, in that you can do the poem of the week, like you see right here in the blue pocket chart. So they put the poem inside of here. You can also cut out the pictures and you can put them in the pocket chart as well. Okay. If you want to do it where the kids have to unscramble the words and make the poem, that's kind of hard. But you teach upper grades and you want the kiddos to, like, it's a mystery to see what the poem says, and you want to mix up the words and have them unscramble the words and put the poem together. That's great. Okay, like a puzzle. So you can do this any way you want to. It depends on the space that you have in your classroom. If you have a bulletin board space, I recommend using the butcher paper to put the poem on the paper and roll it up and store it that way. I like doing it that way. That way I can make it colorful, and I can have them forever. If you want to do the pocket chart way, that's fine. What I would do is I would put the words inside of a baggie, clear plastic baggie, or you could clip them together with a binder clip. They might be a little bit harder to store, but you can put them in clear plastic drawers and make a poetry drawer just of poems. Okay? So either way is fine. If you have a magnetic board, either one of these will work fine on the magnetic board. I just use magnets on my poem. So if you don't have a space for your poem, this is another option. Okay? So if you have a document camera and a smartboard, bingo, there you go. And in the poem, in the resource packet, I have all of these beautiful poems that are already made. They're in color. So you can blow this up on your document camera and display it on your smartboard. Then you can have the kids sit on the carpet in front of your smartboard, just like you're doing another lesson. Like if they're watching YouTube or if they're interacting with the smartboard anyway, you could call them up to the smartboard. They can still point. They can use the drawing tools on the smartboard and circle the rhyming words, circle the nouns, okay? Any way you want to do it. Okay, you don't have to have a center, but if you want a center, then that's totally up to you. Speaking of centers, these are all of the different poetry centers that I've had in the past. Now you're thinking, oh my gosh, Kara, you took pictures of all your centers. Yes, I like to take pictures. You know why? Because whenever I'm getting older now, I forget about what they look like. And I'm sure some of you have the same problem. You forget from year to year what they look like. And so I just take a lot of pictures, and there's nothing wrong with that. But we changed campuses a couple years ago. My campus built a new building. So the bottom two, let's see, this one right here and the middle one were from the old campus, and then these other three are from the new campus. So I just wanted you to see the difference in my center. I like this middle one right here because if you notice, I took an old desk, I covered it with contact paper, and put those little dot stickers, the neon dot stickers. If you have a rainbow theme, I used to have a rainbow theme in my room. That looks really cool on black contact paper, let me tell you. So I painted these stools, which used to be band stools. And so we painted different colors. And then this is what was my center. And I put the nursery rhyme books in the bottom of the desk. And then I had the pocket chart here, the little pocket chart on the desk with the poetry books in the basket. And then, of course, the poem was on the bulletin board. And you want to have some kind of a sign that says Focus Poem or Poetry Center or something like that so the kids know what it is. Okay? And if you notice, my ladders look a little bit different. So over here on this side where my mouse is pointing, I just used index cards. I used those colored index cards, the neon colors. And I just laminated them with the different words on them. Made them off a computer. Okay, so we got the parts of speech ladder right here, and then over here on this side we have the punctuation ladder. Then I decided, I really want to make different. I want to make the different cards look kind of uniform, all the same. So then I made these for the resource that you guys, if you won the resource, all of these cards are in there. Okay, so you can make one side parts of speech and one side punctuation. Now, you don't have to put all those cards up at the same time because you know how little eyes get kind of overwhelmed with lots of stuff on the walls sometimes. So what you can do is just put up one card every week. And you can add to the cards. So if you just want to put up there periods on one side and rhyming words on the other side, that's fine. And then the next week you might want to add capitals or nouns, whatever skill you're doing. Or you could have the rhyming word card up there for 2 or 3 weeks. That's okay, because you're just reviewing rhyming words. So whenever you add a new skill, you can add a new card. Then by the end of the year, you can have all the cards up there, depending on what grade level you teach. Now, if you teach kindergarten, you probably won't need to do adverbs or ed suffixes or ing suffixes. But if you teach 3rd grade, you probably will. Okay? So these are just some examples of my poetry center. Like again, you don't have to have a poetry center, but it is a lot of fun because you could have it as a reading center, a listening center, and a poetry center all in one. So these are some examples of my poetry notebooks. This was my daughter when I had her in 1st grade, and this was her notebook. Again, I like to use the composition books because they don't fall apart. And so what they do is they glue the poem on the left side of the notebook and they illustrate the picture on the right side. Now, before we do the illustrating part, we discuss as a class, tell us what was your mental image that you created in your mind. Okay, so we discuss what we're going to illustrate. And I have them write a caption. Okay, you could say I illustrated or I drew, and I have them write 5 words, 5 or more words in their sentence. Okay, because I think captions are very important because whenever they get to 3rd or 4th grade and they see nonfiction stories that have captions, they need to be able to read those captions. So if you make them accountable for reading captions when they're younger, in the younger grades, they'll be more likely to read the captions in the older grades. So we write lots of captions about our illustrations. Okay. And they have to put a capital, they have to put a period in their caption. Now, if you have a poem, like look at this planets one. If you, we got this one off the internet. So you could draw your own border around the poem and make it look really cute. So the kids can even be creative and they can make their own border around the poem. And then they illustrate their picture with a caption. Okay. You can see these two boys at the bottom here. They are illustrating on the right side of the poem of the notebook, and on the left side is their poem glued in. So I also tell them that whenever we start a new poem the next week, you're going to turn the page over and you're going to glue the next 2 pages together, ... center, before you add the new poem. Because if they don't, when they glue the new poem in, it's going to bleed through to the other side of their illustration. So I don't want that to happen, okay? So you glue the next 2 pages together, okay? And then you glue the poem on top of those 2 pages. So you have to do that when you're gluing in poems every single week, because then if you don't, accidents can happen. And again, you have to model how to glue. I saw a really cute post this morning on Facebook about this teacher who had 3 different color of glitter glues at her teacher table or in her author's chair. Whenever she modeled to the class how to glue something, she would use one of those glitter glue bottles. And she said, whoever is listening really, really well while I am modeling how to do this gets to use the glitter glue for the day. I thought that was really, really cute. So she had like pink and blue and green. And so she picked, I guess, 3 kids that got to use the glitter glue. Oh my gosh. She said you could have heard a pin drop whenever she was modeling how to glue. Just a cute idea. Okay? These are some more poetry centers that I got from Pinterest. These are not mine, but I thought they were really cute. Okay? I like this poetry with the tree on here. So whenever if you teach 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade, and you do a lot of alliteration, onomatopoeias, and a figurative language, poetry is so good for that. It's wonderful. So you could have incorporate all those skills within your poems. And you can teach them about the different kinds of poems, like a couplet, diamante, all those different types. Limericks. I love limericks. Okay, so I like the pocket chart idea with the poem in the pocket. Here's the poetry books down here at the bottom. You could have poetry books like this. You could have their journal in a bucket here on the Poetry Center for them to come get their journal. That's a great idea to keep them safe. Here's another one with this lady. She just wrote the poem out on big chart paper. That's cute, very cute. The poetry notebooks are in a bucket here. And then she's going to illustrate her picture and write her poem. And then here's another one that has the poem in the pocket chart. So these are some great ideas. You can look on Pinterest and really find lots of great ideas, or Instagram, lots of great ideas for poetry centers and how to set them up. Okay, how can I store my big poems? So remember how I told you you can get a laundry basket or a trash can? If you have a trash can, just make sure you tell your custodian not to throw away the stuff that's in your trash can. Because that's happened before. So you want to label your trash can with focus poems or anchor charts or whatever it is that you want to label, and decorate your trash can so they won't throw away your poems. Because that'll be a sad day if they throw away all your poems, all your hard work. You can get these containers. I believe this blue one is from Lakeshore, and it's got the different dividers inside of it. This was cool. And I might even get me one of these because I like how it's divided so the posters don't get messed up. You can hang your anchor charts from one of these stands with the clothes hangers on them. Okay, you can do that if you have the space. Or you can use a wrapping paper box. Christmas wrapping paper box. You get these during Christmas time at Walmart. And then if you get them after Christmas, they're like 75% off. I got mine a couple years ago, and I love it. So you can definitely store your posters in that. Okay, those are just some great ideas. So if you did not win today, that is okay. Okay. Remember the dollar deals I was telling you about for Laura Numeroff books? Story Companion books are $1 today. And then the poetry resources are 50% off for today. So if you would like to check those out, you can go over to my store and check those out, plus much, much more fun stuff for the beginning of the school year. Thank you so much for joining me today, everyone. Happy teaching and happy reading. Please comment if you have any questions. If I did not get a chance to answer your question during the webinar, after the webinar is over, I'm going to go in through all the comments and I'm going to answer your questions for you. Okay, so hang in there. I will answer your questions as soon as I can. All right. Please share this webinar with your teacher friends on Facebook and ask them to join our group, Create Your Balance with Literacy. Again, I hope everybody has a great summer. And the next webinar that I'm going to do is going to be all about math workshop and guided math. So I'm very excited for that. And so probably in later July or early August, I'm going to be giving another webinar. So you guys can join me again and get the chance to win some more free resources. Okay. I love you guys. Have a great summer. Take care. And I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.